Frank and Leonard made the argument that there were all of these ancient assumptions about what worked and didn't work in Hollywood. There were assumptions that, for example, movies with black leads wouldn't work overseas because people in Asia wouldn't want to watch a black cast, or that superhero movies or thrillers that starred women wouldn't necessarily work in the US. And he said Netflix, in a weird way, by simply following the data, by being unbiased by 20th century assumptions and simply looking at the audience and seeing what they're watching, was able to overturn a lot of these ancient biases with their programming. Most famously, something like Orange is the New Black is not the kind of show that I think someone in, say, 1991 would expect to be an enormous hit on television.
Right.
But look at it. To what extent, how much do you relish Netflix overturning conventional wisdoms in Hollywood?
It's my favorite part of the job, honestly. And I feel like it's one of those things, like what data would be useless for is finding the next big thing, because data is really good at figuring out what people are doing already based on the things that are already there and what they have to choose from. So all this conventional wisdom is based on this thing that failed once, and then one buyer who's still around who tells that horror story up to people. And mostly people, like I said, a lot of the entertainment culture is so fear-based. People don't want to get fired. So the reason you don't get fired if you do things the way they've always been done and they don't work. Yeah, you get fired if you try something new and it doesn't work. They think you're nuts. So we get the opportunity to keep. And remember, the nice thing about our entry into all this was our environment's a lot more forgiving than it would be for a network. A network has 3 hours of prime time, 5 days a week. That's it. You better choose well, and that show better be great, and you better put it before and after the right show, or they're going to fail. There's all those things that we don't have to deal with. And people look at Netflix, and the one thing is they watch the show for a minute, they fall into it, they love it. If they don't, they turn it off and watch something else, and they really are about. So the stakes of any one of those shows is not as high as it is for everybody else, which gives us the opportunity to do something like a show out of the UK called Sex Education,
right?
Which
so
is
too.
Yeah, and the Laurie Nunn, who's the showrunner on the show, is in her 20s, had worked in a couple of writers' rooms, but never had run a television show ever. And we can take a chance on people who are promising and stories that are different but promising, and who really can pull it off. And you get some nice surprises in there.